Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. It is titled How to Start Writing a Novel in 5 Easy Steps. And I'm going to be sharing some awesome content on how to write your novel. And these steps will be the first 5 things you need to do if you're planning to write a novel. I think I'll give a few more minutes for some more people to join us, and then we'll start. Okay, let's begin the webinar. As I said before, the webinar is titled How to Start Writing Your Novel in 5 Easy Steps. And a quick introduction before I go on. My name is Tolulope Popoola, and I'm an author, a publisher, and writing coach. And I work at Accomplished Press. I'll tell you a bit more about me in a second. Yeah, I'm the founder of Accomplished Press. So Accomplished Press is my own company, and that is where I offer coaching, training, and publishing services to writers. My interests are words, so reading and writing are my hobbies, and now I've built them into my job and my career. So I've turned my hobbies and my love for writing and reading into something I do for a living. Okay, but I wasn't always on this career path. Some years ago, I was an accountant. I was working in a law firm in the city of London. And if we go further back, I actually studied a first degree in accounting and business economics. And then, as if that wasn't punishment enough, I went for a master's degree in finance and investment, which was fine at the time anyway, because I enjoyed studying those subjects. But it wasn't until I got into the world of work that I realized actually there's a big difference between studying something and doing it for your career. Yep, so I started working, and in 2006, I realized I was miserable in my job. I I wasn't looking forward to waking up on Monday mornings and thinking I have to go to work now. I hated my commute because at the time I was commuting over an hour each way just to get to work in the city. And I hated the inflexible structure of the 9 to 5. So I didn't like the fact that my time was always accounted for, and I had to report to someone else during those hours. I didn't like that strict structure. I would prefer if my life was more flexible and I could do more with my own time. Now, even though the company I was working for at the time was a very great company, I mean, they had a great company culture, I was still very unhappy, and I started to think why. And I realized it was because I wasn't using my creative talent. I knew that I had creative abilities. I knew that I was wasting my true abilities in that line of work. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I was actually bored with looking at spreadsheets and dealing with figures every day. And the longer I stayed in the job, the surer I was that I was definitely in the wrong job. So I started thinking about what jobs I could do that would make me excited to get up in the morning and go to work. And I knew that, well, writing and reading had always been my hobbies, but for a long time, it didn't make any sense to me. It didn't even occur to me that I could do them for a job, or I could make a career out of what I enjoy doing as a hobby. At the time, I didn't know anyone around me who wrote professionally or who made their living from writing. And I didn't even think it was possible to be a full-time writer. It's one of those things that nobody told me when I was growing up that, oh, it is possible for you to be a writer. Most job offers or most advice I was given at the time was, oh, you could be, a banker, you could be a lawyer, you could be an engineer, you could be a doctor. Writing wasn't on the list of future job careers that I was given as a child. So it didn't even occur to me that I could do that. However, in 2006, I discovered blogging. So I started a blog of my own. And then I realized that I actually love doing this thing. And so every day I would come back home from work and just go on my blog and write and, connect with readers. And the longer I did it, the more I realized I enjoyed doing it. And before long, I started writing fiction. So I started writing short stories, and I realized, wow, I actually enjoy doing this. And then I started getting good feedback from people as well who read my work or who read my blog posts. And the feedback I got was very, very encouraging. So I started thinking about it that what if I actually did this for a living? Is that possible? So I decided to experiment. I took a short writing class and I started writing flash fiction and short stories. So I started writing some more. And the class was very helpful because I got feedback from the tutors and from other students, and they really were very encouraging. So I thought, okay, if I can do this and people think it's okay and people like what I write, then I could probably do this for a living. So I decided to do another experiment. I created an online fiction series, which I co wrote with 7 other awesome writers, and that lasted 2 years. So we used to write an online fiction series where we created some characters and created some storylines, and every Friday we would update it. And very soon, it grew and grew, and people started looking forward to Friday updates. And that lasted 2 years. Like I said, it was very fun working on it, and I still, look back on that time and realize I learned a lot when I was working on that series. Now, I finished that series, and then I wrote my first novel, but I didn't think it was good enough to get it published. And then I started writing another story. So I took some of my characters out of the series that we're working on online and created a novel out of the story. And then I tried to get it published traditionally, but I was facing a lot of rejection from mainstream publishers. Not because my work was bad or anything, but because they thought it wasn't commercially viable because it's termed as ethnic fiction. Well, I don't know what that means, but I guess it's not mainstream British fiction, so they thought it wouldn't sell well in the market. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll do it myself. So in 2011, I set up Accomplished Press and learned all about the publishing industry, and then successfully published my first novel, which is titled Nothing Comes Close. And I've since then published 2 collections of flash fiction stories for myself, and I've started helping other writers to publish their own works too. Yep, so I've published ebooks, paperbacks, and so on for other writers now. I'm currently working on some more projects in the pipeline, and now I've made writing and publishing and coaching my career, my career path, and so I'm no longer doing, spreadsheets and accounting software, which is good. Now, my passion is helping aspiring authors just like you to make your writing and publishing dreams come true. Because I know how I felt at the beginning of my career, which was I was quite confused. It was quite stressful thinking about all the opportunities, all the possibilities in this new path. But I needed someone to guide me and to show me what to do. So I decided, well, once I'm sure of what I'm doing, then I'm gonna create opportunities for other writers like me who want to become full-time writers, who want to start writing professionally. I'm going to do something to help them. So that's why I started coaching writers. And that's why I have created this webinar. If you want to write a novel this year and you need some guidance and you need some advice and tips on what to do to make your writing go smoothly, to make it easier, to make it quicker, then this webinar is definitely for you. Now, how do you start writing your novel? I know that according to a recent American survey, 81% of people want to write a novel. And because you're listening to me on this webinar, I'm sure you're one of them. So if you want to write a book, then you are an aspiring author. And I know many writers have been struggling for years to write their books. I get a lot of emails from writers who tell me, I've been working on this novel for more than 5 years, or I've been working on this story, or I've had this idea for so long, and it's just always been on the back of my mind. I haven't been able to put it together into a book. Um, so do you lie awake at night hearing your stories in your head? And do you wish you just had the right knowledge to get started with your book? Or if you're like me, do you just do you wish there was a magic wand that would just take all the stories in your head and just magically transfer them onto paper and publish them for you because you just simply don't know where to begin? Or maybe you've already made progress, or you started working on the book, but you got confused or you got overwhelmed, so you quit. And maybe you were struggling with self-doubt, and maybe you were wondering if your work would ever be good enough. Trust me, nobody writes a brilliant first draft. Everybody writes a very, very basic first draft. So don't let that stop you. Or maybe you've been struggling with self-doubt. Maybe you've been procrastinating with your idea because you're busy, you work full time, you have a family, you have volunteer things that you do. Maybe you're still studying, and so many things compete for your time. Maybe there's many distractions around you, so you never seem to have the time to sit down and concentrate and work on your novel. Or maybe you are just afraid of criticism, or the fact that your work might get rejected and you don't think you can deal with that. Don't let that stop you, because every writer has to deal with rejection at some point. Not everybody will like your work, but you will find the people who like your work. So take that as encouragement. Wherever you get someone who likes your work, take that as encouragement. Or maybe like someone said to me that she is feeling reluctant to publish her work because she's afraid that people will see her inner thoughts and her feelings, and um, that's a perfectly valid reason to want to hide. But I'm telling you that no matter how weird you think your ideas are, no matter how wacky or crazy you think your thoughts are, I think it's best if you express them. There's only one person who can express your thoughts the way you think them, and that's you. So don't let the fact that you think your stories might be weird, don't let that stop you from writing them and getting them out. There are enough weird people who write, and they always find their audience. And maybe you've even given up completely. Maybe you've struggled for so many years and you're still trying to write your book, and you gave up, and it just became too much for you, so you put it away. Maybe you have several unfinished manuscripts in your computer. You started but you stopped, and then you never went back to them, so they're just there gathering gathering virtual dust because you're not working on the stories anymore, and you're not even thinking about it. But deep down, you know that writing your book is, still an unfulfilled desire. That desire hasn't gone away. It's still there. And whilst you may procrastinate, and whilst you may be worrying about how, if you ever do it, that desire is still there. It still tugs at your heart, and you know that until you finish this, until you achieve this dream, that desire won't go away. So if you are ready to overcome those obstacles and finally write your book, then I am here to help you. And I know that a lot of people who want to write, they know that if they don't write, then they'll be filled with regrets. So I don't want you to go through any regrets. I don't want you to go through the rest of your life feeling unfulfilled, or feeling like you haven't achieved something, feeling like a failure because you haven't made your dream of writing a book come true. And then you also don't want to continue feeling jealous of other writers who manage to overcome their own obstacles. Because I know a friend of mine was telling me, I know I can write, I can even write better than some books I read. Sometimes I read books and I think I can write better than this, but I don't know, I can't seem to find the motivation to actually write. And tell her, well, other writers that you think are better than, they've put in the time to write their book. So of course they get published. Your book, no matter how good you think you are at writing, until you write your book, nobody else can publish it, nobody else can read it. So don't let that stop you if you're thinking that, there are many people out there who you feel you can write better than. But don't let the jealousy overwhelm you. Just put it aside and decide that I'm going to write my own book too. Now, writing a book gives you so many benefits, and you don't want to miss out on those benefits. There's this huge feeling of accomplishment that you get when you finish writing your book. If you speak to any writer or any published author and ask them, how does it feel when you finally see your published book, when you've written the end on your manuscript, they'll tell you it's an awesome feeling. Then there's the respect and admiration from your family and friends. When people say, what do you do? And you tell them I'm a writer or I've written a novel, it's always like a big talking point. People immediately want to know more. They want to ask you questions. How did you do it? Because it's still a big achievement for anyone to sit down and write a novel. And then there's so many other things like getting feedback from the readers who absolutely love what you've written. That's something that every writer dreams of, and when you get feedback from your readers, it always makes everything worthwhile. Put in the time, put in the efforts to write your thoughts down, and it connects with somebody. And if the person is so kind to give you a reference or um, give you a review, or even like just send you an email to say, gosh, I read your book and I loved it, that feeling is so awesome. And then there's so many other things, there's recognition, there's awards, there's speaking opportunities, and many other doors that your writing can open up for you. For me, my writing has opened up so many doors that I didn't even imagine would I could get into at the time I started writing. In fact, some of my stories have now been made into short films, and I've been invited to speak at events. I have been invited to judge writing competitions and so on. And these doors have opened up for me because I started writing and I decided to follow my dream of becoming a published writer. So if you don't want to go through life feeling like there's something missing or feeling like you haven't achieved your dream, so what's the solution? So how do you start, or what do you need to start? Well, you need clear structures so that you're not feeling overwhelmed with the writing process. You need the right guidance that will steer you on the correct path and away from confusion. And you need the right knowledge that is broken down into easy, practical steps so that you can start taking action straight away. Well, I'm here to help you, and in this webinar, I'm going to be sharing the 5 easy steps to help you go from confused to confident about writing your novel. And I will break down the novel writing process into manageable steps for you so that you don't have to go through any confusion or anxiety about the process. And I am willing to bet that you actually enjoy the brainstorming and the writing process so that at the end of it all, you look back and you think, wow, that was awesome. I enjoyed writing my novel. I'd like to do it all over again. So, and at the end of the webinar, I'm going to have a Q&A session so that you can ask me any questions about the steps we've discussed and any other things that you might want to talk about regarding writing your novel. So make sure you stay till the end. It's going to be really great. And just before we go into the topics, the actual topic of the webinar, I will ask you to, give this webinar your full attention. So turn off the TV, turn off Facebook, switch your phone to silent, make sure the kids are busy or fast asleep. Remove all of that distraction so that you can focus and give your best time to this webinar. So if you are ready to learn and implement the steps in your writing, that's awesome. Okay, grab your pen and notebook and let's begin. So, what are the 5 steps to start writing a novel? Well, the first step is choosing a good idea to start. So, what's your book going to be about? What's your idea? Now, this might sound pretty obvious, but sometimes I meet aspiring writers who say they want to write a novel. And I ask them, okay, so what's the story going to be about? They don't actually know, or they're still thinking about it. They don't know if their idea is good enough. And I always say to them, okay, well, you have to have a good idea. You have to have an idea that lights you up. The idea has to be something that you're totally passionate about. So my first advice to any aspiring author is always start with an idea that really gets you excited. Now, if you're going to be writing a novel, you're going to be working on it for a long time. So you're going to be thinking about it, dreaming about it, talking about it, explaining it to people, and so on. So it has to be something that you're interested in, something that really, really gets you excited. Otherwise, you get bored halfway, and or you probably think, "What's the point?" and you probably quit. So you never get to the end of it. So you must choose a topic that really interests you 100%. Now, how do you come up with an idea that you can really get excited about? So where do your good ideas come from? Now, you may already have an idea that interests you, or maybe you don't have an idea yet, and you need to think about it. You need to brainstorm for a while. That's fine. So what you do is you start doing things, or you start looking for ideas in many different places. So, for example, you can spend some time reading books that really interest you, maybe books by your favorite authors, maybe books about your favorite topic, or you can start listening to conversations and podcasts on topics that interest you. You can read biographies of people that you admire. So maybe the president, maybe the a particularly famous or well-known sports person, or people who have achieved something great in their lives, who have overcome a big adversity or something like that. People that you find inspiring and encouraging. So you can read their biographies to find out more about their stories, and you can get ideas from that, maybe from a character or from a place. Now, once you're doing all this, you can also, listen to music, listen to lyrics, and so on, or maybe watch your favorite program and pick out some of the topics, or pick out some of the characters, and decide, if you can find a good idea from there. So once you start doing these things, you might start coming up with ideas, and you need to spend time thinking about each of these topics or each of these ideas that come to you. So let them linger in your mind for a while. Let your mind wander, keep your imagination fired up. Well, when you start getting lots of good ideas, it's good to start writing things down. So get a notebook, a pen, or open a document on your laptop, and just put there that, okay, these are my possible novel ideas. So every time you get a good idea, go and write it down, put it in your notebook, or put it in your computer, and file it away as possible novel ideas. Now, when you find a really good idea, it will be something that lights up your brain, something that you suddenly think, oh wow, that's interesting. And that idea sticks in your mind for longer. Maybe you keep coming back to it over and over again. And sometimes you may have more than one good idea, and you're trying to decide which one to start with. I would say you should always start with the idea that you're more intrigued in over the other, because you need all the enthusiasm you can get when you're writing a novel. Now go through each possible idea that you have. Maybe when you've got maybe 5 or 6 ideas in your document or your idea bank, and go through each one, and then imagine building a story around it. Now, maybe create some characters, maybe try and create a simple plot around it. Now, would the story appeal to you? Is it something you can see yourself working on for a long time? Is it something you can see yourself discussing? Is it something you can imagine building a world around it and creating a believable story about it? You know, um, would it appeal to you as the author, and would it appeal to somebody else, to a reader, to maybe your target markets, for example? If you can imagine yourself doing that with your idea, then that's awesome. Then that means you've got a good idea, and you can take it to the next stage, and you can start planning your story. So that's the first step, getting a very good idea that you can take on and begin to work on. Now, I would say that you should always start with as much enthusiasm as possible, because it is this enthusiasm that will keep you going until you've written the last word in your manuscript. And throughout the whole editing process, it's your enthusiasm for your story, for the characters, for the plot, and so on, that will keep you going. Now, I always say to writers that this is also why you shouldn't choose an idea just because you think it will make you money, or just because that's a trending topic at the moment. So if you're not interested in writing vampire romance, don't say because it's a popular genre at the moment, you must write a story on vampire romance. You probably won't last long if you try and do that, because if you're not invested enough in the story and invested enough in your idea, then you won't enjoy writing it, and you'll probably quit halfway. Okay, so that's step one. Now, what's the next step? The next step is choosing your protagonist. Now, once you have your story idea, you should start thinking about the people that will execute the story. Now, your first focus will be on the main character, or the protagonist. Now, who is the protagonist? The protagonist is the person that the novel is about, or maybe his or her life and the journey that he or she goes through is the main focus of the novel. Now, when you were coming up with your idea in step one, you may have already started thinking about who the protagonist of your story is. But if you haven't decided yet, that's fine. This step is going to show you how to do that. Now, sometimes your story may have two or more interesting people, or two or more people that are very, very central to the story, and you might need to think about it for a while before you decide which of them exactly is going to be your protagonist. So, like I was like, for example, yeah, if you decide to, okay, maybe whilst you're brainstorming and thinking about your idea, you found a story. Now, the story is of a high-profile robbery at the bank. So maybe you found the story on the news and you decided to follow it up, and you followed the story up and got some basic facts. Now, the story goes like this. There was a gang of robbers, maybe from the local town. They were quite notorious, and they recently pulled off their most daring bank robbery. So they were helped by an insider at the bank, and they went to the bank and got away with millions of pounds. Now, there was a ringleader, and whilst the robbery was going on, the ringleader, you know, shot shot someone, an innocent customer at the bank. And so now there's also a murder, and as well as the robbery. Now, after the robbers got away, um, police were called and detectives were called to investigate. And whilst the investigation was going on, the branch manager there was suspended because he was suspected of foul play. Maybe he knew what was going on, or maybe he was just being negligent. So whilst the investigation is going on, he has been suspended. Now, based on this story idea and this example, who do you think is the protagonist of that story? Now, different people might find the story and think, actually, I would prefer this protagonist over the other. Now, I have one, two, three, four, five different possible protagonists here. You could even have more. Um, there's the ringleader among the gang of robbers. There's the insider at the bank who gave the robbers information. There's the suspended bank manager. You could have one of the detectives investigating the crime, or you could even have the wife of the innocent customer who was killed during the robbery. Now, based on this, who would you choose as the protagonist of the story? Um, For me, I would choose the suspended bank manager because I think I will find his story quite interesting. I would also want to know if he was actually guilty, if he knew something about the robbery, or if he was innocent, but he was probably just negligent, or maybe even the whole thing was a setup from the start just to bring him down. I would also want to know more about his background, maybe his life, maybe his family, and now that he's been suspended from his job, maybe that's going to cause problems for him and his wife. There are many things that I would like to know about this him as a protagonist. Now, somebody else might decide to choose the ringleader among the gang of robbers as their protagonist, maybe because they want to know what led him to a life of crime, and where did he start from in life. Maybe he had a background that wasn't very stable as a child, so he fell into the hands of crime, and he fell into a bad gang. So based on the protagonist of the story, you could tell a very different story. So the story I will tell about the suspended bank manager will be very different from the story somebody else will tell about the ringleader among the gang of robbers. So even if we have the similar ideas from at the beginning, the person you choose as your protagonist will make a big difference to the story. Now, if you are not sure who you should choose, you could do a quick sketch of all the possible protagonists and go with the one whose story you find most intriguing. So, like I just did, I've done a quick sketch about maybe about the suspended bank manager and the ringleader in the gang of robbers. Somebody else might decide to do a sketch on the wife of the innocent customer that was killed that day, and decide actually I prefer her story. It's up to you as the author. Now, from what I said, it's obvious that the protagonist you choose will drastically alter the direction of your story. And if you want to make things more interesting, you could even choose more than one protagonist. So you can have two protagonists or more, and maybe you can alternate their viewpoint. So between them, you can tell your story and focus on one person at a time. When you've chosen your protagonist, you then need to go through this process again to choose an antagonist. So the antagonist is the person who creates obstacles in the path of the protagonist. So maybe in your story idea, you have a protagonist who wants to achieve something, or who is trying to make progress in some way, or maybe she's trying to fall in love or something. And then you have the antagonist who is always constituting an obstacle. Um, the person might not necessarily be a villain in the sense that they are evil, but in the process of interacting with your protagonist, they become an obstruction or an obstacle in their path. Now, once you've done this step, you have a good story idea, and you now have the protagonist that's going to drive your story forward. So that's step two. Okay, so now you have some elements done. The next step is choosing your novel's point of view. So how do you tell the story of the characters, and so your protagonist and the supporting characters, how do you tell their story? There are many different types of point of view, but the most common ones are the first person, the second person, the third person limited narrative, and the omniscient view narrative. So each of these narratives form how you tell the story of your characters. Now, the first person point of view is when the author refers to I, we, me, mine, and us as the narrator. Now, this first person point of view is often the voice of the main character in the story. So you could have the character speaking directly um, to the reader. So the main character voices everything, and you can see not only their words, but you can also see their thoughts and perhaps even some of their motives, and even the things that they're thinking that other characters in the story are not able to see. Now, the advantage of this point of view is that it brings your character to life better. I think anyway, and this is actually one of my favorite points of view because I like getting into the head of my character. So by default, I want to write in first person because I want the reader to be able to know what the character is thinking, not just what the character is doing. So, for example, you say, "I called him, but he wasn't answering his phone." So that's the character speaking, and the reader can immediately see what they're saying and also what they're deciding. So I called him, but he wasn't answering his phone. I immediately decided to pay John a visit tomorrow. Okay, the next point of view is the second person point of view. So that is when the writer uses you to describe all the actions and emotions going on in the story. So the reader reads as if the author is speaking directly about them and using you to describe everything. So this point of view is rarely used in long fiction. Is not often used in novels nowadays anyway, and but it's more common in short fiction like maybe short stories. So to use the previous example, instead of using I, you now say you. So you called him, but he wasn't answering his phone. You immediately decided to pay John a visit tomorrow. Okay, the third one is the third person point of view, and this one uses he, she, it, they, them as the narrator. Third person point of view is the most common point of view in modern fiction, and the advantage of it is that it offers a variety of possibilities for limiting omniscience. So that's the information that both the narrator and the reader are privy to in the telling of the story. So there are two types. The third person unlimited omniscience is when the author can show us the thoughts of any character, and then the story can shift from one character's point of view to the other. Now, stories written this way can benefit from contrasting viewpoints and conflicting points of view. But I think the author has to be quite skilled to make sure that it doesn't cause confusion and the reader can still follow along with who is speaking and who is speaking at each point in time because the points of view can shift from one character to the other. Now, in third person limited omniscience, the author enters the mind of just a few characters, so usually just one character at a time, maybe one character per chapter or per scene. So, in this point of view, you still have the ability to switch from one character's mind to another, but you can keep it so that it's a bit limited. You don't go into the mind of every single character in the story. Now, each of these points of views can work well for any novel. So you can choose the first, the second, or the third person point of view. Those are the three most common ones, anyway. And you have to decide as the writer which one you are more comfortable with and which one works best for your story. Now, sometimes you may find that you start with one point of view, and halfway through writing the story, you decide actually you think a different point of view would work better. That's totally fine. Sometimes it's maybe even whilst you're doing your editing stage, so you might have even finished the first draft, and whilst you're doing the editing, you think actually your story might be better served by a different point of view. So it's always possible to change it halfway through, if you're not so happy with the one you've currently got. Okay, so the fourth step in writing your novel is decide where and when the story happens. So that's the story setting. Now the setting is mostly concerned with time and place. So time is where the story happens. Sorry, time is when the story happens, and place is where the story happens. Now, in step one, whilst you were going through thinking about your idea, you may have already decided on the setting. So, for example, a story may be set in New York City in 1987, or it could be a story set in London during the Second World War. you can see immediately that based on the setting alone, even if the characters are similar, you tell a very different story from it's, the stories that you tell about London during the Second World War will be very different from a story set in New York City in 1987. Now, maybe when you were brainstorming for your idea, it was the setting that intrigued you enough in the first place and it made you decide you wanted to work on this novel. Now, if in that case, you have to make the setting quite prominent in the story or quite important and central to the story. I know I've read some books where the setting is the actual story, the setting and the history about the setting is what led to the story in the first place. Now, when you're deciding on the location, you might choose between a real place that exists in the present, maybe, or even a real place that existed in history, or it might even be an imaginary place that you make up completely and that is not real. You can also choose to set your novel somewhere in between, such as maybe a fictitious small town within a real country with some elements based on reality and some elements might be fictional. So maybe I choose to set my story in Essex, and Essex is a real place in the UK, but I choose to create a fake town. So a fake town set in the UK, so I would have elements of UK life in the story, but then the setting will not be real. So I can make up things like where the post office is, and where the schools are, and where the banks are, where the shops are. But I still have to keep in mind that the UK is a real place, so I have to make sure that elements of the story and elements of the setting where the story is based is real enough to the reader. Now, if you were writing a genre such as fantasy or sci-fi, your story can be set in a very different place. So your story doesn't even have to be based on this planet. You can make up many things, and you can even create a story in a different planet, in an alternate reality, or maybe somewhere that doesn't even exist. Although you still have to follow the conventions of your genre. In historical fiction, your story's location might be real, but you could choose to set it in a specific time it's a specific period as well in history, such as maybe the old Wild West, maybe in ancient Egypt, or maybe during the First World War, or maybe even in the Stone Age, outside the period outside of recorded history. So obviously, you can see that the story you tell about London in the First World War will be very, very, very different from the story you tell if you're writing about London in 2013 or 2014. Now, if you're choosing it to write about a real place, research is very important for you for your novel, especially if it's a place you haven't been before and you need to find out more about how that place operates or how that period of time operated. You should be able to describe the places in your novel well enough so that the story will seem authentic to someone who lives there now. Say, for example, you wanted to write a story about um, London in 2015 or 2016. You have to put in things that are real to people based in London now. It would be different if you decided to write about London in 1720 or something like that, because the kind of things that were in London then will be very different from now. So maybe things like the kind of food people ate, the way people dressed, the way people communicated, the kind of jobs people did, the modes of transportation, the culture, the customs, the things that were important to people at the time will be very different from the things that are important now. So, for example, modes of transportation in the in London in 1800s will be very different from modes of transportation now. Even the things like jobs people did, I'm sure if you wanted to write a historical novel set in London in 1988, I don't think there were people who were fashion bloggers at the time. But if you wanted to write a novel about that now, it's perfectly, possible that you could write about somebody whose job was to be a fashion blogger. So things like that making that there are things that make your novel real. There are things that make your novel come alive. So if you're going to write a novel about contemporary times, you probably have to include things like mobile phones, things like the internet, Facebook, social media, and things like that. The means of transportation will be different, so you won't. I don't think you find in a contemporary novel. I don't think it'll be real or realistic if you start talking about horse and carriage and things like that. You have to keep up with it, keep up with the times that you're writing in. So your novel should seem like believable and consistent, and it should make the story it should help the story and the plot to make sense. Basically, if it doesn't make sense for your character to do things or to say things or to wear things or to eat things uh that don't exist in reality, then your story is not going to seem real to your reader, and you lose some credibility. Okay, so now we are on to step 5. And step 5 is writing your plot outline. So now we have the basic elements of your novel done. We have the idea, we have the characters, we have the setting, we have the point of view. The next thing to do is to bring these together and write, start formulating your plot outline. Now, there are different schools of thought on whether an outline is necessary for a novelist. Personally, I think an outline is important because it acts as a roadmap for your story so that you know where you're going, and you also know the series of events that have to happen so that your characters will achieve their goals. It also helps me so that I don't write myself into a corner or get stuck. So like when I'm writing long fiction, yeah, I definitely have to have an outline. Maybe not if you're writing like short stories or flash fiction, you might not need an outline, but having one for a novel definitely makes sense. Now, different methods work for different writers, but I use a 6-step method that I recommend um, for myself anyway, and for my clients as well. This 6-step method helps me to look at how the plot will unfold, how the characters and the elements come together, and how everything comes to resolution at the end. Okay, so the 6-step method for creating a plot outline are as follows. The first one is the story goal. So right at the beginning of your plot, so you have to determine what exactly is the goal of this story. Now, the story goal is what your protagonist is trying to achieve. If your protagonist is trying to achieve happiness, how exactly is that defined? What exactly would or has to happen for them to become happy? So whilst I'm going through these 6 steps, I'm going to give you an example of like an example, like a sample story. So I'm going to use this example. Imagine if we're writing a story about a woman, and it's a romance novel, and she is a 37-year-old female. She wants to find love before it's too late. So she wants to settle down into a relationship and hopefully fall in love and get married. So the story goal for that character is to meet someone, fall in love, and get married and live happily ever after. And because it's a romance novel, I know that it's likely to have a happy ending because most romance novels have a happy ending. So once I've determined that as my story goal, and I've created my character, and I give her some obstacles to overcome. But the main thing is the goal of this story is for my character to meet someone and fall in love and live happily ever after. So that's my first step. The next one is consequences. Now, consequences are the things that would happen or what will happen at the end of the story if my protagonist fails to achieve the story goal. Now, like I said, my protagonist is a 37-year-old female. She's a career woman. She's worked, hard in her career all her life, and now she's trying to maybe step back from her career a bit and try to find love before it's too late. So, what will be the consequences for the story if she doesn't achieve her story goal? For her, maybe the consequences will be that she doesn't find love, and then she ends up living a lonely and miserable life. So that would be the consequences for my character if she does not achieve her story goal. The next step is requirements. So when you're writing your plot, you have to think about what does your protagonist have to do to achieve the story goal. So in my example, my character is trying to find love. So maybe I'm gonna assume that maybe she has been too busy with her career, to find love. So now, if she really wants to find love, she might need to take a step back from her career, maybe cut down her working hours so that she can have time to socialize outside of work. Maybe she decides to sign up for a dating website or join a dating agency. Maybe she decides to have a makeover so that she can, look nice. Maybe she tells her friends and family that, okay, now I'm looking for love and I want to meet someone. So maybe you can set me up with potential dates. Things like that that the character has to do to start moving forward with the goal. Those are the things that are my requirements. Those are the requirements for your story. Now, the next one, the fourth one, is forewarnings. Now, forewarnings are events that you include in your story that show that the consequence is getting nearer. So if you go back to step two, you've created the consequence. What's the consequence? The consequence is that my character doesn't achieve her story goal. So she doesn't find the right man. She doesn't meet him. She doesn't fall in love. She doesn't live happily ever after. If I wanted her to if I wanted that to happen, or if as I'm progressing in the story, and I think I need to include some forewarnings. So maybe as she's tried to start going out on more dates, all she keeps getting is, she keeps going on bad dates, really awful dates that make her think that maybe she left it too late to find love, or maybe she's never going to meet the right man. Maybe she is destined to grow old and live alone and die miserably, maybe surrounded by only her cats, and so things like that that make it seem as if the consequence is getting nearer and your character might never really achieve her goal. Those are the forewarnings. Now the next one, the fifth one, are the costs. So what are costs? Costs are sacrifices that your protagonist has to make to achieve the story goal. Now, costs are different from requirements. Requirements are things that you would have to do anyway to get to the story goal, but costs are like sacrifices that involve a lot more risk than the requirements. So the things that would qualify as costs for my example would be maybe my character now she has been set up with a guy that she normally would never date, and not only that, it's the date has been fixed for a time when she should normally be at work. Maybe she's trying to get a promotion, and if she doesn't come for that meeting, she won't get the promotion that she's been working so hard for. So she has to take a big risk to go on this date with someone that and she's not sure if it's going to work out or not. She's not sure if the risk is going to be worth it, but it's something that she feels she has to do. She has to take a chance on this. So if you are writing a story, you have to include things like that that would make it seem like your character is going all in, is trying their best to achieve the story goal, and they are making sacrifices and they're taking risks to make sure that the story goal is achieved. So those are costs. And the final step is the climax, the climax and the resolution. So the climax is at the point where your protagonist makes a decision towards the end of the story, or does something that determines decisively whether or not the story goal will be achieved. And then once you have the climax, then you know whether your story will end happily or will end unhappily. So based on my example, and because I know I want my story to end happily, I would say that the climax would involve my character taking the big risk, and having it work out well for her in the end. So at the climax, she decides to go on this date with the guy she normally wouldn't go on a date with, and it worked out, and he turned out to be the perfect guy for her. And at the end of the day, maybe he proposes and she says yes, and the story ends happily, where I can safely conclude that she's going to live happily ever after with the person she's met. So those 6 steps. Once I've done those 6 steps, I have the basic structure for my novel. So using these 6 steps, you can write a synopsis for your entire novel. Once you have the synopsis, you can break down this synopsis into a chapter by chapter outline. So maybe in the beginning, you meet your character struggling with her goal, and then as you go on, then you include all the other things. So you include the consequences, the requirements, the sacrifices, and so on. And once you've broken down the synopsis into chapter by chapter outline, then you know that you have a good plan for how you're going to write your story, how it's going to start, how it's going to get to the middle, and how it's going to get to the end. Now, you might decide maybe you don't want it to be too detailed. Maybe you don't want a scene by scene or chapter by chapter outline. Maybe you just want it to be quite broad so that you still give yourself some room for flexibility. But that's up to you. The important thing is, like, once you've done this 6 steps, you have a very good plan of what you're going to do with your story idea, what you're going to do with the setting, what you're going to do with your characters, and so on. So there you have it. Those are the 5 steps to start writing your novel. Let's have a quick recap, shall we? The first one is choosing your story idea. The second one is choosing your protagonist. The third step is choosing your novel's point of view. The fourth step is choosing your novel's setting. And the fifth step is writing your story's outline. Now, once you've gone through these 5 steps, you have laid the groundwork for your novel, and writing it should be pretty straightforward from here on. So once you've gone through these 5 steps, what's the next thing? The next step is for you to write your full first draft. So this is where you start weaving together all the elements and write the story that you've outlined from beginning to end, so you can start putting everything together. You have the basic building blocks. Now you have to build on it and write the full first draft. Now, writing this first draft is the point where most writers struggle and give up. But I'm telling you that writing your first draft doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to take you years either. You can do it quickly. So imagine if you were able to cut out all the doubts and all the second guessing and all the writer's block. And imagine that you are able to finish writing your novel and type the end, that huge sense of accomplishment and relief that you get when you finally type the end on your manuscript. That's going to be awesome. Now imagine that you can hold your very own published book in your hands in a few months' time. And imagine seeing your name and your book come up on Amazon, like that's your book, that's something that you've written and it's out there. It's being shared with the world now. It's gonna be amazing. Now, it is possible for all that to happen for you in 2016. So I'm telling you that it's possible for you to write your book and get it published this year. What if I told you that you can write your first draft in just 12 weeks? Now, that's just 90 days. So if you're ready to complete your first draft using the 5 steps we've covered in this webinar and some other aspects of writing a novel that I'm going to tell you, such as conflict, suspense, dialogue, and so on, then I have the perfect program for you. So introducing 12 weeks to your first draft. 12 weeks to your first draft is a coaching program for aspiring authors, and it is designed to give you all the information, the accountability, and support you need so that you can finish writing the first draft of your novel in just 12 weeks. Now, in this program, I'm going to be covering more topics on writing a novel, and I'll be sharing the tips and strategies to help you write an interesting novel in a short time, so that writing your novel doesn't have to take years and it doesn't have to cause you lots of frustration and heartache. Now, this coaching program is not for everybody. It is for people who are serious. So if you're serious about writing your next book fast, if you are tired of feeling overwhelmed with the writing process, if you are tired of procrastinating with your writing goals, if you are keen to share your unique writing talent to the world, if you are ready to receive the help and advice you need to achieve your book, if you are ready to take the next step to becoming a successful author, and if you are no longer in the excuses zone, so this is going to happen for you this year. So this year you are going to write your novel, then yeah, this program is for you. And the key aspect of this program is the support and the accountability. I know that if anyone is trying to write a novel on their own, there'll be days when you get discouraged, there'll be days when you get overwhelmed, there'll be days when you're tempted to quit. And on those days, you start getting distracted, or you may start making excuses, you may start to slack off. And chances are, the longer you slack off, the harder it is to pick up from where you left off. So I'm not going to let that happen to you on this program. I will give you lessons every week. So every week you get lessons and tips to move you forward. You get feedback on the progress you've made so far, and you get encouraging ideas to help you move past your doubts. You get writing prompts and exercises to keep your words flowing. You get exercises to help you break through writer's block so you can banish that forever. You get advice to help you discover your own writing voice and your writing potential. You get support and helpful weekly targets to help you stay on track. So every week I'll give you a target to write something, and with the support and accountability you have to keep writing, and that will help you stay on track, so that by the end of the course you would realize that not only were you able to write your first draft in just 12 weeks, you were actually able to enjoy the writing process too. Okay, so the program includes an introduction and welcome session. There will be 12 live weekly coaching sessions. You get worksheets and guidance notes. In the coaching sessions, you also get weekly coursework and assignments. You get unlimited support and accountability from me and my team. You get email support for the duration of the course, and that's from me. And then you get group reviews and feedback. So from every member of the course, each person can get feedback and help get ideas and inspiration from other members. And as there are some bonuses here. You also get access to a free Facebook group, which is private for the members of this course, which is great for interacting with other people, other writers like you who are trying to write the novel in a short time. And at the end of the course, you get a free professional marketing consultation. So if you wanted to publish your work and take it further, then I'm going to be supporting you with that. I'll give you a free consultation on how to market your work. And that's not all. You also get some free registration bonuses as well. When you register, you receive a free copy of my ebook, 10 Tips to Beat Procrastination for Writers. And this is such a great ebook because I know that many writers struggle with procrastination. And this ebook is full of practical advice and tips to help you overcome that pesky problem, once and for all. You also receive a free audio mini series, 5 days to kickstart your novel. And this takes all the steps we've discussed in this webinar, takes it further. and the series will get you started with practical tips and activities you can start doing before the actual writing begins, so that you can successfully complete your first draft. And finally, you receive a free copy of my ebook, 15 mistakes that self-publishing writers need to avoid. And this ebook will give you great advice for when, if you are considering self-publishing your work, when you're ready. So what's the investment for this program? The full investment for this 12-week coaching program is £897. So for 12 weeks, you pay that amount. You can make payments with your credit card, or you can pay via PayPal, or you can pay via bank transfer. I know not everyone might be able to pay all upfront, so installment options are available. You can choose to make either 3 payments of £300 or 4 payments of £225. Now, if you're interested in the program and you would like to make different installment arrangements, that's totally fine. Just get in touch and we can arrange something different for you. Now, I'm offering a 20% early bird discount. So for writers who register and pay in full before the end of January 2016, you'll get 20% off the price. Now, you also get this discount if you mention during your booking that you heard about the program through this webinar. So you get that 20% off. So that means you get the full program, including all the bonuses, for just £717. And how big is the group? Well, I'm deliberately keeping it small, so there are only 12 places on this group program. I'm keeping it small so that I can provide excellent value for each participant and each member, and ensure that everyone can meet their writing goals. I'm also thinking that each person would benefit from interacting in the private Facebook group, so you don't feel like you're drowning in a very large group and you're getting lost because there are too many people talking at the same time. So no, I'm keeping the group small so that each person can benefit from the interaction and the community in the Facebook group. So if you're ready to take action and stop procrastinating, and if you are ready to write your novel in 2016, then awesome. And the next thing for you to do is to go to my website, accomplishpress.com/coaching. When you get there, you find the link to the 12 weeks to your first draft program, so you can read through and find out some more information. If there's anything I haven't covered in this webinar, it will be on the page, and you can click through to register and pay for the course. Now, I know you may still want to speak to me to discuss any questions you have. So if you still have any questions about this coaching program, and that's fine, just go to my website, accomplishpress.com/coaching, and you find the link to book an appointment with me, so you can speak to me directly. And yeah, we can go through any questions or any doubts or any issues at all that you might have with the program. Okay, so when does the course start? The course actually starts in mid-February. So in about halfway through February, then that's when we'll start. And like I said, there are only 12 spots in the program, so you can't afford to delay because the spots will fill up very, very quickly. So if 2016 is the year you want to get your novel written and published, if you want to kickstart your career, if you want to become a published author, and you want to start getting the respect of your colleagues, if you want to take launch a new career in writing, and so many excellent possibilities that await you. If 2016 is the year you want to do all that, then take the first step to making it happen. Now, I know you can maybe read books or maybe speak to people and maybe try and do it on your own. But I know that there's no substitute to getting live help from a living, breathing expert to help you accomplish your writing dreams. So if you're ready to accomplish your writing dreams and your goals this year, go to accomplishpress.com/coaching to register and secure your spot in the program now. Okay, so now we have a Q&A session. So thank you for staying till this point in time in the webinar. So if you are there and you have any questions for me regarding anything I've discussed, either about the 5 steps to writing your novel or about the program, and if you're interested in registering for the program but you have any questions, please feel free to let me know now, and I can help you and we can go through them together. Okay, someone has just asked if they can keep the content of the course for as long as they want. Yes, that's possible. Yes. Once you've registered on a course, you can get access to all the course materials and you get to keep them. So if you want to retake the course again, maybe you finish writing the first draft of one novel and then you want to go through the material again and write another novel, then that's totally fine. You can keep the material and you can go through them over and over again at your own time at no extra cost. Once you've paid to register for the program once, then you can access the material over and over again. The only thing I'll say is please don't share it, because obviously it's private, is a private course, so don't share the materials publicly. Okay, thank you. Any other question? Somebody's asking if I would help to publish the novel. Yes. Once you finish writing the first draft, there's still some more things to do. You have to edit it and make sure it's good enough to publish. But yeah, I can definitely help you with publishing the novel. But let's take it one step at a time. So you register for the course, and then we go through the 12-week program. Once you've written your first draft and we've polished it and made it good enough to publish, then we'll definitely help you with the publishing. Okay, someone's asking how the coaching sessions will work. The coaching sessions are done via Skype. So it'll be video conferencing, and it'll be twice a week. So at the beginning of the week, we go through what you've done last week, or maybe the introductory session, and then we have a period where we review what you've written so far, and then I give you feedback, and then we talk about the topic for the week, and then I give you an assignment for the next week, so that you keep writing. So you have a target to keep writing something every week. And so the sessions will be done online, so you don't have to physically come into any school or any classroom. The program is all done online, and everything you need can be emailed to you or sent to you online. Okay, thank you. Any other question? Okay, someone's asking about installments payment. Yeah, like I said, you can pay in 3 or 4 installments, or maybe even if you wanted a different arrangement, I can make that for you. So just go to my website, accomplishpress.com, or you can send me an email to coaching@accomplishpress.com, and let me tell me what you want to do regarding the installment plan, and we can see if we can work out something that is favorable for you. Okay. I hope that answers the question. So just contact me and we can work something out. Okay, any more questions? I think that's it for now. Okay, so like I said, yeah, and if you have any questions, just send me an email, or just go to my website and fill out the inquiry form. So you can go to accomplishpress.com and contact me there. or you can send an email to coaching@accomplishpress.com, and I will definitely get back to you. Okay, so imagine holding your very own published book in your hands in a few months' time, and that, imagine seeing your name and your book come up on Amazon, and imagine all these things that would happen once you become a well-known, author of, an interesting book that your fans and your readers love, and they are writing to you to say thank you for writing this book. It is possible for you, even if you feel you don't have loads of time, even if you think you can't write as well as your favorite author. I know, like many writers, compare ourselves to the classics, and we think we can't write as good as that. But trust me, that shouldn't be an obstacle for you. Not everybody can write the same way, but each of us has a message that we can share. So even if you're worried that you've held yourself back in the past, I think that shouldn't stop you from doing what you want to do now. So get over your obstacles, get over your doubts, stop worrying about the past. Just focus on where you are now. So if you are sure you want to, and you're ready, you want to become a published author, do the first thing: secure your spot in a 12 weeks your first draft coaching program now, so you can make your writing dreams come true in 2016. So I would like to thank you very much for attending this webinar and spending some time with me. I'm sure you found it insightful and helpful for your novel writing. If you have any questions, don't forget to let me know. And I look forward to helping you with writing your novel in the coming weeks. Once again, you can go to accomplishpress.com/coaching to register and secure your spot in the program now, and make your writing dreams come true in 2016. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any more questions that haven't been addressed here in the webinar. So if you have any questions relating to writing and publishing and coaching or any of my services, then yeah, you can reach out to me. I'm available on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Google Plus, and Goodreads. So if you can, yeah, if you're on any of those networks, then you can find me easily. So my Facebook page is facebook.com/Tolulope Popoola. Twitter is twitter.com/Tolulope. And if you want to book an appointment with me to speak with me on the phone or via Skype, then just go to tolulopepopola.equityscheduling.com. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to welcoming you on the 12 weeks to your first draft group coaching program. Thank you very, very much for attending this webinar. Once again, my name is Tolulope Popoola. I am a publisher and writing coach at Accomplished Press, and I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you taking your time to be with me today.